Radio Bypass, bringing you rock and roll music that deserves to be heard. Discover new bands. Here's some old favorites on Radio Bypass.
Hey rockers, our guest today has been the drummer on several of my favorite albums of the last 4 years. 2 killer records with Black Swan, a fantastic album with Minefield, and now blowing me away with a brand new record from Electric Temple. I am honored to be joined by Matt Starr. Thanks for coming by Radio Bypass, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And be careful driving while we're chatting here. So Matt, did we just lose you? You froze up. Oh no, you're back. Okay.
Yep.
So the latest thing that you're involved with is the Electric Temple album, High Voltage Salvation. We'll definitely get into that. But for people that may not be aware of you, you've played with Ace Frehley, Mr. Big, and then, of course, all the bands I just mentioned, Minefield, Black Swan, Electric Temple. And you've probably got a lot of other credits as well on records that I haven't mentioned. So I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about you first off, because I think you have kind of an interesting backstory. I know I had read about you, working your way as a drummer and plodding along and maybe not getting quite where you wanted to be. And things changed I believe, with getting involved with Ace's band, kind of flipped a switch for you. And I know now you, in addition to being a great player, you're a great speaker as well and a coach. So can you tell us a little bit about what that was like for you, what your background was, and how you got to be where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the switch flipped before the Ace gig. If the switch hadn't flipped, I would have never have gotten that gig or any of the other gigs that I had. So, 8 years old, discovered Kiss in 1978, lost my freaking mind. Kiss Alive 2, that was it. And, so always wanted to play music, always knew what I wanted to do. Only played music to pay my bills from like my early 20s on. I never had a job after that. But as I got into my middle to late 30s, I was playing bars. I was living in LA, playing in bars, 3 sets a night, covers, just not what I wanted to be doing. And I kind of had a moment of clarity amidst, honestly, a depression, which is like, wow, whatever I'm doing isn't working. I know how to play drums, and I knew I wasn't the world's greatest drummer, but I knew I was certainly competent and capable of doing the kind of gigs that I wanted to do.
Right.
So I'm like, well, what's the problem here? And the problem was me, which is news, because if it was the industry or some other thing outside myself, I wouldn't have a chance of changing that. But the problem was me. So, yeah, I mean, you said like a change in attitude. Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it. But I really had to look at my mindset and my beliefs about myself and about success and about successful people and all of this stuff that had nothing to do with music. And when I got all that shit together, then the phone started ringing. And once that happened, people started reaching out to me, people who I had asked for advice before. And then they came back to me and said, hey, no offense, but like before you had reached out to me, I never even heard of you. And now you're getting all these gigs. You're playing with Ace Frehley, you're playing with Mr. Big, playing with Joel and Turner, you're touring, you're making records, all this stuff. I'm not doing that. So what are you doing? So then they're asking me for advice. And I realized like, wow, I really stumbled into something. And I fast tracked it because these are guys that were like in LA since their 20s and had done stuff, but not what I was doing.
Right.
And so I realized like, okay, I kind of got something special here. And that's where the coaching thing was born out of. But that first gig with Ace, that was the beginning of that. And then it was, again, Ace and Mr. Big, Joel and Turner, George Lynch, Kicks, Phil X. There's a lot of other ones in there. I can't remember everybody, but like, yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of stuff, and super grateful. And the first one being Ace, a guy whose face I used to draw when I laid on my floor after school and listened to the records, and then I would play along. And before I was actually playing drums, I would pretend I was in Kiss, jumping around my room like every other kid. And then when I started playing drums, I would play along to Kiss records, but specifically Ace's solo record with Anton Fig on drums. And so then to be in New York City for my first show with Ace, opening up with the first song on his solo record. Anton Fig was there. He's like standing on the side of the stage. It was pretty surreal, but it's like those things would have never come to fruition had I not gone through that process of changing myself.
But you kind of figured that out in your deep inside your own soul, it sounds like. It sounds like you really examined your thoughts and your behaviors, and figured out a way to change that.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And it was out of desperation. I mean, it wasn't like, I wouldn't have gone through all that had I not been so frustrated and so frankly scared, because like I was 37, 38. After I got through that, I realized, I just avoided a midlife crisis, because that's probably what happens. Like people, but I think more typically men have those where you get about halfway, like hopefully I'll live much past 80 years old, but like, you get around 40 and you look at your life and all the things you thought you were going to do and you told yourself would happen one day. It's like, hey, bro, it ain't happening,
Right.
So like, are we going to do the next 40 like this, or are they going to be different?
Right. But it's not always easy to figure out what needs to change within one's self,
Right.
to make those changes. So I think it's admirable that you were able to sort that out for yourself. And I'm glad you did, because I'm glad I've gotten to hear your drumming.
Right. Well, that's the other part of it is like when I work with coaching clients, it's like, yeah, you have hopes and dreams and desires and everything, but also like we're here to inspire everybody. So yeah, I might want to, play with people and tour the world, but like I had a small part in making some records that you really like, but if I hadn't gotten my shit together, yeah, you would have never heard my drumming. Would have been somebody else who I'm sure would have been great, right? But like I can't share my gifts with you or anyone until I get myself together and like get in a position to where I can be visible.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Well, I'm glad that happened for you, and I'm glad that you're having the success now that you've been having. Currently, you're not touring with Ace, though, currently, right?
No, I haven't been with Ace for a little over a year. This year, I was out with Gary Hoey, Gilby Clark. I did some stuff with Phil X. We're actually doing some more stuff next week in LA.
Are you part of that new drill song? I know there's a new Phil X and the drill song. Are you part of that?
No, he just sent me that. I think Ray Luzier from Korn is on that one. But yeah, Phil's got a new deal, and there's a new record coming out next year, I believe. But yeah, so far our relationship over the years has been just doing live shows together.
Got it.
Yeah,
well, that's awesome. And speaking of recording, I guess while we're in that on that subject, I don't know. I think it was right about this time last year, or maybe it was the beginning of this year. Jeff Pilson came by, and we were talking about a lot of things, including Black Swan. And he mentioned that some of the next Black Swan record was pretty much done at that point. Can you give us any Black Swan update? Are we closer to getting that thing out in 25?
You are closer. Yeah, I just was talking with Jeff yesterday. So I'm going to be tracking drums for the new record in January.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah, very sweet. So yeah, we're excited. It's been a while. Everybody's been busy. Schedules, all that stuff. So finally came together. So yeah, in January, I'm going to track it. As far as when it's coming out, I don't know. I don't have any news on that, but yes, we are that much closer.
Awesome. Yeah, he thought it would probably be seeing the light of day in 2025, and I was hoping that we're still on that track, because that's one band that my audience emails me often about. Hey, do you know anything about the next Black Swan record? And So there's definitely anticipation that's out there waiting for this next one.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to hear it too, because I don't know what they've been working on. And everybody's so talented. I hear the songs, I'm like, damn, this band's good. I'm like, all right, I got to play drums. All right, here we go.
Yes, yes, you do. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And then Minefield, I don't know if there's any plans for another record. I had talked to Todd months ago about if there's going to be another one, and it certainly wasn't a no, but it certainly wasn't a yes. Any talk on anything with Minefield?
Yeah, I talked with Brandon Fields a while back, and I believe, yeah, he wanted to do something, and so I don't have any announcement, but he and I have talked, and he said, yeah, he definitely wants to do another one. So, if and when that's happening, I don't have any news, but it definitely is an intention to do it. And I think we all had a great time doing it. You know what I mean? So why not?
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that because, yeah, I'd love a follow up to that. It's been, well, it'll be 4 years if something came out next in 25.
Oh my God. Time goes by so fast.
So fast. I know. But yeah, I love that record so much. And like I think I mentioned, your drum intro to the song Alone from that record, maybe a short intro, but it's cool. I love I love your choice there.
Thank you.
So, all right. So anyway, so thank you for answering those questions about those projects. Now let's talk about the current thing that got us together today that I'm also super stoked about, which is the High Voltage Salvation album from Electric Temple.
Yeah.
When I got my ears on that record, I instantly fell in love. And I think I mentioned to you, I hadn't even paid attention to who the players were yet till I listened to the record some. And I was like, man, this is so good. And I looked up the information I had been sent, and I'm like, oh, Andrew Freeman on vocals. No wonder I like it. Oh, Tony Childs on guitar, Mike Duda on bass, and then Matt Starr on drums. I'm like, well, no wonder this is so freaking good. What a great combination of players. But I had no idea this band was a thing. So how did Electric Tempo come to be?
So this is a project that Tony Childs started. Tony's the guitar player and the songwriter. And yeah, he had reached out to me, and it was similar to Minefield in that it was like, hey man, we know some of the same people. I'm doing a record, got some songs. I'm like, yeah, cool. All right, send them over. Let's hear it, And then he played me the demos, and I don't remember what the first couple songs I heard were, but they were pretty fully realized, right? Like it wasn't just a bunch of riffs. Like they were songs and they were organized, and there was vocals on them too, I believe. But I was like, damn, this stuff's cool, man. And I remember thinking like, yeah, it's got like a Dio Sabbath thing going on. And then he was talking about Andrew, and I said, yeah, I love Andrew. I've done other stuff with Andrew. Anyway, so that's how it started. And you never know how these things are going to go because of, internet, which is wonderful. I can make records with anyone in the world, and I do, but right. Some things are, someone wants to do a record, but they get a couple songs in, and then they get distracted or, whatever. So you never know ultimately what things are going to turn into. And this really, like, Tony did it the right way and invested in himself, did the videos, got Chris Collier to mix it, hired quality musicians, like really put together a great band and album. And it starts with the songs, and he wrote great songs to begin with. So
yes. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I always have my early favorites, and so far for me on this record, it's Big Black Hole, because I like great drum intro, Streets of Pain, and Worlds on Fire. Those are my three top ones at the moment. After more listenings, but just those three songs alone, and I'll say this to everybody listening to this, just those three songs alone make it worth picking up this album. Just those three, but the whole thing is great. So yeah, I agree. Really, really great songs. Okay, well that's how that came together. So really, kind of Tony being the impetus behind all this. getting everybody together. And as we music fans get excited about different records, always hope to see the bands live. I've talked to both Jeff and Robin McCauley about Black Swan getting out there at some point. What about this lineup? Any chance of you guys getting out doing some shows?
Yeah, there is some talk about that. And Tony was asking me about that because I saw him. We did a video shoot a few weeks back. And he was like, would you be open to that? Do you have time for that? And I said, yeah, man, absolutely. So that is a possibility, and that is being discussed, and kind of seeds getting planted right now.
Nice. Because yeah, that's the one thing I love. A lot of these records that come out nowadays, but because everybody's doing multiple things nowadays, which you have to do to survive, the chance to hear these songs live are always kind of minimal. But I always hold out hope every time I talk to somebody that's put something out. It's like, any chance alive, just in case.
Yeah, and I think too, like, with the Black Swan thing, they announced the lineup for the Frontiers Festival, which is the label that Black Swan is on,
right,
in Italy, and I think it's in March or April. And Robin McCauley's going to be there, and Winger's going to be there. So Red Beach. So I texted everybody, go, hey, 50% of the band will already be there. Just saying. And everyone's like, oh, hell yeah, man, we should do it. So hopefully at some point we will. And again, with the Tony Childs Electric Temple, I think there's a real good chance that there'll be some shows next year.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Black Swan, even though I'd be bummed because I wouldn't be at that show, that would be cool. I mean, Foreigner's got to be slowing down a little bit in that time of the year, so maybe maybe that can happen.
Yeah, you never know. It's funny when we've talked about it. When we get together, like for the video shoots. I mean, the thing is, Jeff and Reb were together when they worked together. Then Jeff and Robin were together and then me and Jeff were. But like. Our first video shoot was the first time we were all in a room together. And I think it just dawned on us like, oh, we all know each other, but we had not all been in a room together. And so, that's the kind of modern way of making records. But when we've talked about it, we're like, oh, it would be so cool to play live. And then the harmonies would be amazing because everybody sings. And then someone said, oh, shit, we'd have to learn all the songs. we'd have to go back and, what did we do? Oh, I got it. Okay. So, but yeah.
That'd be nothing for pros like you guys.
Right. Well, yeah, that is. I've had that experience where, like, for the Electric Temple video shoot, there were two songs, and it's been a while, so I listen to them and I'm like, it's cool because it's like hearing it almost for the first time. But then when I'm learning the drum parts, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good fill. It's like, yeah, it's you dummy. Like, of course, but so I kind of know what the drummer would play. I go, oh, right, yeah, that's something I would do. It's like, yeah, you did do that, dude. So it is easier to learn your own material.
Yes, it is. The only song I could think for Black Swan, since you haven't done them live, that maybe would take a little bit of work is Divided United, because that's such a major piece. That would take a little work, but
yeah, it's pretty epic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it truly is. I love that song so much. Speaking of not all being together in the modern way of making records, I mean, as a drummer, usually you want to lock in with the bass player, at least, certainly in a live environment for certain. But working by yourself, to something, whatever it is that gets you started, what piece of music you have. I mean, is it like, how do you go about figuring out what you should play because you don't have the guys in the room to give you immediate feedback? I mean, do you just discuss some ideas beforehand and then you try to play with that in mind? How do you figure out what your parts should be? Or do you just subscribe to, I'm just going to leave some breathing room here and see how it goes?
So it depends who I'm working with, but I always want to hear if the artist has like even just a drum loop that they used, Even if they're like, oh, I that drum loop's stupid. I just needed something to play along to. It's like, that's fine. I want to hear it because it might be working in places, or it might be what they're used to, even if they think they don't really like it. But then, you take it away and they're like, hey, where's that kick drum patterns? So I want to hear what they're doing and what's working. And then I will see what I come up with. And if it doesn't need to be changed, I'm not going to change it. It might feel like if I have some ideas, then.
Oh, you just froze up.
So we have a clear idea. And also too, oh, sorry.
You're back.
So I have a clear idea of that before I go in, and the artist does too, but also too, like most people or everyone who reaches out to me, they like my drumming, right? So more times than not, I just hear them say like, oh, do your thing, man. I love what you did on that record, So that gives me just a level of comfort to just kind of listen to my instincts and trust my instincts. But like with the Black Swan record, Jeff is the producer, so he's always there. So we're talking, about kick drum pattern. We're talking about a lot of stuff. He might go like, that section was amazing. On this one, you went boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, boom. But what about boom, bap, boom, boom, bap? But then the next one was boom, boom, bap, boom, boom. And right. So there'll be more involvement like that. Just depends on the project, again, if the person's there or not.
Got it. Yeah, I always wonder about that because I'm used to when I was young and working with bands and we'd go into the recording studio, they could discuss still there, like, oh wait, you know what, try this or whatever. Now, if you're working, isolated, how do you do that, and how do you decide what works?
Yeah, which is why it's like so important to be working with people that are really good, because I tell people, like, you're not just paying me to kick ass, you're paying me to not do a bunch of stupid stuff and waste your time and waste your money. Mm-hmm. Because I already did that in my 20s. You know what I mean? I already tried all those ideas and I'm like, they don't work, right? So like to not only get you a great sounding drum track with great parts and stuff, but like well played, it's just going to be easy for everyone to lock into, and it's going to really elevate the vocal and make it sound awesome, So, and I got to say too, like that Black Swan record, the first one I did with Jeff, second one I did remotely because it was COVID, and I was on the East Coast. I don't listen to the first one or the second one and think, wow, this one sounds like everybody's in the room and this one sounds all disconnected. It was a little bit of I got to say, like almost disappointing. I'm like, they both kind of sound the same. And I'm an old school guy. Like, I would prefer to be in the room with everybody because I'm a human being and I like connecting with human beings. And there is some, like you said, that thing of like, hey, that was cool. Do that again in the other part. And it's something you wouldn't have thought of. But doing things remote, I hear things back and I go, I can't tell that the bass was recorded in March in Arizona and the drums were recorded in July in, Alabama, and then the vocals were done, on an airplane and, right. So like, which is cool again, because it's not going to be like, it doesn't sound all disjointed, but there is something magical about being together. But I've done a lot of records and I go, man, if you said, are these guys in the same room or did they record separately? I can't tell.
Yeah.
It just sounds cohesive. And I think that's when you get quality players. Everyone knows what to do,
Exactly. Yep. I think so too, because I had the same thought. And I do hear, songs that get submitted to the RadioBypass show. You can tell some of them are not recorded very well. Sound quality is not there, the mix isn't there, whatever it may be. But when you've got people that definitely, have some experience and know what they're doing, you really can't tell that it's all disheveled, which in the beginning, when I first started, seeing records being made this way, I'm thinking, oh man, these are going to sound like shit. Right. But I'm wrong. They don't. So it works and I'm glad for it. But like you being a drummer, I think it's kind of interesting too, because you seem to really have your tone dialed in when I listen to your drums.
Yeah.
And I know you're a Ludwig guy, but much like the other star, Ringo.
Yeah.
Uh, do you use the same kit always when you're doing tracks, or do you move things around? You use different drums because the tonation just always sounds so consistent on the things I hear you play.
Yeah. I think, it's funny because I did a project the other day at a studio and I used a different brand of drums because they had them there and it was just easier. And the guy was like, damn, it just sounds like you. And so I think that's part of it. It's just like, it's me. And so I have my sound that comes from my hands. But yeah, as far as like different kits, I'll use different bass drums because that makes a big difference, right? Like either, sometimes 26, sometimes 28. I think on the first Black Swan record, I used a 28. But then on the next one, Jeff was like, and the mix engineer too was like, can you use like a smaller one, like a 24, which is still a rock size, but like
Right.
it was too big, right, for what they were going for. A little too maybe 70s, not 80s enough, forever. So I will change the bass drum size. I play Ludwig Black Beauty 6.5 snare drum. I played that in pretty much everything. It's such a versatile drum. It always sounds great. So that's pretty consistent. And then I have my Feisty 2002 cymbals. So, that's pretty much it. I have my drums, which are really big.
Mhm.
So if like on this record for Electric Temple, I did use my toms, right? Because there's a couple studios I use, and they have regular size Ludwig toms. And if it's a regular kind of rock and roll thing, that's fine. But like for this thing, because it was so big and epic, I'm like, that's going to make a big difference if I use those bigger drums. So I did.
Mhm.
So it just depends on the scenario, and I've kind of got a bunch of different things worked out depending on where I'm recording.
Gotcha. So yeah, you've really got it dialed in. Were you just a kid when you started playing?
Yeah, I was sixth grade when I started like, I got drumsticks and was in the school band. That only lasted a couple months because it was boring to me. But that's kind of when I started playing the drums per se. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And I would just listen to records. I don't know if other kids were like this, but I would listen to like I got a 45 that I liked. I'd listen to it like for 3 hours straight. And eventually you start like hearing things that you didn't hear before. You start, what's that? Being arena? What is that? Is that a guitar? Is that a keyboard? What is that thing? You start digging into stuff and listening to it more of like as an analysis rather than, the first hour and a half, I was just psyched to hear the song. But then again, you start really listening close. And that's where my musician hearing started kicking in and my producer hearing started kicking in.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's fun doing that too. Like whenever I listen to new music, the first time I'm just listening to the song as an overall thing. But it's fun on repeated listens each time for a while. You'll hear something that you didn't hear on the previous pass. So yeah, it's a blast doing that.
Completely.
Like you
Yep,
said,
totally.
figuring out what is that sound sometimes too that I'm hearing. I
Right.
agree with that wholeheartedly. Okay, well, let's go back to Electric Temples. I don't want to keep you too long. You're probably going to get where you're going pretty soon.
Getting close. I'm going to meet my buddy Marty O'Brien. Marty plays bass. He was in Lita Ford's band for many
Was
years,
it?
but now
Yeah, I saw
he
him
plays.
with her.
Yeah, now he plays with Daughtry, and they're playing in Connecticut tonight. So I'm in Connecticut. So I'm going to go see Marty, and we're going to have a coffee and talk about cartoons or whatever we end up talking about. Probably Gene Simmons at some point we'll talk about.
That'll work. Keep the Kiss thing going.
Yeah.
Well, for Electric Temple, the physical CD I know you can get at eonianrecords.com. And I think that I see you guys do have a website for the band too. Is that just electrictemple.com? Or do you not?
I don't know if there is a site or not. Yeah, I mean, definitely through the social media and through the the record label website too.
Yeah. So everybody, I'll put some slides into this for those of you that watch this, and those of you that don't. Eonian is Eonian. Eonian Records. Search that on the internet, And you can get the physical, which I have just ordered. I only have the digital, but I want the physical, and you can get it too at eonianrecords.com. Do you have, Matt? I've played on, so every Saturday I do a weekly music show, kind of like back when I was a radio DJ. I still try to do kind of a live music show, except now, of course, it's recorded because it's on the internet instead. But I treat it like a live show. If I make a mistake, I just repeat myself and correct myself or whatever. But anyway, I do an hour of music, mostly new stuff, revisit a little bit of old stuff too, here and there. So on the music show, I've played from this record, Big Black Hole, and what did I play last week? I played the lead-off track, I believe. I played last week. So what I always like to do at the end of these chats that I have with the people making the music is have you pick out a song that we should add at the end of this interview. So yeah, Death Wish, Big Black Hole, I've already played on the music show. So any of the remaining tracks, what do you recommend we add to the end of this?
Oh, well, I was thinking, yeah, Death Wish was the one I was going to say.
You know what? That's okay. If that's one you're totally.
Can you replay?
Yeah.
I mean, every time I hear it, because it's in my, the band's page and Tony's page is in my feed, and I hear dom ba dom ba dom ba dom, and that was the one I had to do a video for, and I heard it and I was like, I remember the song, but I was like, damn, this came out killer, man. So yeah, let's do a Death Wish 2.0.
You got it, yeah, because I want it to be the artist's choice, so that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
Okay. Another comment on this record. Whoever did the sequencing, good choices, because that is a great track to kick this thing off with. For those of us who care about order, I know it's a singles world today, but I still like when it has a certain flow to it, and this meets my criteria.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, Tony's an old school guy. I think everybody did a great job, putting together a great team for this album,
Yeah, so awesome. All right, well, I'm glad you were able to join us today, Matt. I really appreciate your time. Everybody, again, we're talking about Electric Temple, new record, just out. High Voltage Salvation just came out December 6th. Check that out at eonianrecords.com. Stick around when we're done talking here to hear Death Wish from this album. It's a killer track in case you've missed it. And then Matt Starr, you can follow Matt over at mattstarmusic.com. And I think you have a separate site for your coaching world as well. I'm sure you've got a link off of the mattstarmusic.com. So
yeah, it's just mattstarcoaching.com.
There you go. So any of you business folks that maybe need some motivational speaking or something, or do you stay just with music, Matt, as far as your coaching?
No, about half my clients are musicians, but the rest of them are in different industries, business owners and entrepreneurs. Because the stuff I teach, again, it's not music related, but obviously musicians can relate to me because of what I do and who I am. So that's most. I get a lot of music clients, but people in all kinds of different industries, and I do speaking gigs, and corporate speaking gigs, and those are not musicians; those are the companies,
Gotcha. So motivational speaking.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Get everybody fired up, remind them why they're here, get to work.
I love it. All right. So everybody, there you go. And Matt, we're going to not hold you to it, but we're hoping to see the new Black Swan in 2025. This Electric Temple, I hope, is an ongoing thing as well. I hope we get another Electric Temple album down the road. And I hope we get to see some live Electric Temple dates getting booked. So fingers crossed on all of that. All right. Once again, everybody, with Matt Starr.
I'm with you.
Good. We're talking with Matt Starr, drummer extraordinaire. Thank you, Matt, for coming by Radio Bypass. Everybody, check this out. Electric Temple, High Voltage Salvation's the album. Crank up your speakers right now. This is Death Wish.
Woo!